Maybe that's just me,
Yeah.
you know. Okay, so we're getting back in our groove. Hello. I'm going to start
Hello,
off with
Beck.
our intro. Hi, beautiful souls, friends, Romans, countrymen. My name is Akashic Bec, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. I'm so glad to be here, and today is a very special day. This is the first installment of my new series, the Energy Healing series. And this is where we're going to discuss the vital role that energetics play in our mental, emotional, and physical health. This is because anything that happens on those levels first happens in the realm of spirit. And as we deepen into this age of Aquarius, we begin to reconnect with that part of ourselves and take its role in our life more seriously. So, my guests will be energy healers and workers. We'll be having candid discussions about the different modalities that are available to us, as well as general discussion about life and the themes that we're noticing in the collective. So, my first guest is actually a returning guest to my channel. Um, oh goodness, that my phone made a noise. He's actually a returning guest to my channel, and he is an amazing Reiki master, Reiki healer, teacher. I believe he's also a hypnosis instructor now. Yeah,
Well, yeah, yeah. I
practitioner,
wouldn't practitioner. Yeah.
practitioner. So please welcome to the Energy Healing Series, Mr. Ian Robinson. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for asking.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, I immediately thought of you whenever I decided to
Oh,
do this series. I'm glad that you agreed. I'm glad that we were able to meet up. And we do have a little bit of a time difference here. So I'm in the United States, and it's 11 o'clock here, and it's what 5 p.m. where you
5
are.
p.m. over here. Yeah, it's just
But
starting to get a little bit dusky. It's starting to get a bit dusky over here now.
yes, that's cool. That's cool. Well, how have you been, Ian, since the last time we spoke?
I've been very well. I've been very good. There's been a lot that's been going on. So it'd be good to catch up. And
Yes.
because we've been wanting to catch up for ages, haven't we? And we just nothing seemed to go
No.
nothing seemed to go to right, and because we're just both so busy,
Mhm.
and time has just become an illusion, and
Facts.
like time seems to be going so fast, but we've also come so far.
Mhm.
Like it just seems to have gone like that, and 4 years are gone. But the amount of stuff that we've done, that we've worked on, that we've healed, that we've ascended from, we've ascended from so much stuff.
Facts.
So yeah, it's been very good. It's been draining at times. It's been tiring,
Mhm.
as energy has that effect on us occasionally. Or we have to just remember that we are all energy beings, and we have to think of ourselves as a battery. They only last so long. You need to look after yourself. So yeah.
100%. I love what you said about we really do. We have our energetic batteries, and
Mm,
whenever you're a sensitive soul or you identify as an empath, um you know, you have got to really look after your energetic health. And that was like another reason I wanted to do this series because I don't think we really realize how to advocate for ourselves in that way, like how to have
mm,
agency over our own energies because we are so bombarded by things in
mm,
everyday life. Even the people that maybe we share our life with, they might unknowingly be draining us. And
mm,
we feel maybe guilty or shame around not having more energy for other people because typically we tend to like center other people in our lives and their well-beings, which that's a whole nother conversation. We could get into codependency and whatnot, but it's really really important that we take care of ourselves. And I just don't hear a lot of people talk about the ways that we can advocate for ourselves in that way. Like
Mm,
what kind of modalities are out there? Um, who can help me to understand my energy better? you
mm,
know what what's a what's a tip off for me that I'm just not paying attention to, because we're like filled with a world of distraction, right? And
yeah, yeah.
it's absolutely just draining. We just
Hmm.
can't seem to catch a break no matter what we do, even if we go out in nature for a little while. It's like I'd have to be outside for 3 days,
Yeah.
in order to receive the level of healing that I need, because I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
go back and just basically piss it all away when I go back into my real life.
Mm,
And we can't all live in the Garden of Eden.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's not really an earthly life, is it? We have to go through these ups and downs. We have to go through the hardships, the grief, the turmoil, but we also need to be able to navigate through them with an understanding of why we're going through them, the acceptance of them, and not be
Mm,
stuck in the energy of them.
right.
Because we can become very anchored in that energy. We can become stuck. Um, and many people do. Grief is a hard thing. Fear, is a hard thing to get past. Yeah. So, and that's the other side of life that we need to be aware of, and not just within ourselves and every day, but the all those people that are around us are living these energy signatures, and they too are positive and negative. They are receivers and they are drains, and it's just constant. It's coming and
Mhm.
going of energy, because that's all that ever is. That's all that exists.
100%. Yeah. And I love how you said energetic signatures. Like I noticed that in my own readings and my own healing sessions. Is I'll say, you have this particular signature, and
Mm,
sometimes those signatures are like projected upon us, and sometimes they're something that we're born with, something that we've inherited, something. Epigenetics is a real thing, y'all.
mm, mm.
And it could be even something from our previous lifetimes, that
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
carrying into this one. So yeah, I love how you mentioned that. That was
Mm.
actually something I was gonna talk to you about. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
We're just winging it
Bum,
today,
bum, bum,
y'all.
bum, bum,
I
bum, bum.
know we got this chord. I love it. I absolutely love it. But yeah, so it's so important. Like I said, for people to know what's out there. A lot of people have probably heard of Reiki, but they don't really know what it is. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today. Could you kind of give, like, if you were talking to someone who had never heard of Reiki, like, how would you explain it to them?
Someone just asked me that last week. Actually, I was at
Oh,
a group
really?
last week, and they said, sorry, because they turned up halfway through this group, and they said sorry for being late. And when they turned up and they sat down,
Mhm.
and she said, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. What is Reiki? I've never ever heard of it. And this lady she was elderly, she was
Mhm.
getting on. So I said, okay. I said, right, I'm just going to break it down into the very basic element of what Reiki is. Reiki is a Japanese healing modality that allows you to feel relaxed, and it speeds up your body's natural healing process.
Mm.
That's it.
Period.
Bump. Period. That is it. You can go as deep as you want with it, or you can keep it as simple as possible.
Mhm.
If you want to go deep, it tends to be more for people that are either have been receiving Reiki for some time and they're more on a spiritual path, they become more aware of energy and how energy works, or maybe
Mhm.
Reiki students or Reiki practitioners themselves. They want to go a little bit deeper, because the deeper you go, the more you develop yourself, the more you learn.
Mhm.
But
Right.
keeping it just as basic as possible, because if you try talking about the quantum field and, and all this sort of stuff just
Right.
to anybody, they're going to be like, right, I'm gone. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. You're
So
gonna scare them off.
you just got to keep it level. Just keep it so plain, so basic, and just say it helps you relax. and it speeds up your body's natural healing process.
Beautiful.
Simple.
Well, I'm so glad that they asked you because I
Mm.
mean, I feel like that's a perfect answer, And one of the things, that I mentioned when we first came in, we were talking about, how anything that happens to us on a physical, mental, or emotional level first happens in the realm of spirit. That was one of the first things when I started tapping into the Akashic records that spirit told me. They were like,
Mm.
it's so, so important for not just me but just everybody to really focus and take their energetic health seriously. But I love how you mentioned it speeds up your healing because it does. It's like it just
Mm.
moves, right? It just
Mm.
essentially removes the stagnation, or it
Mm-hmm.
allows the natural flow of the body
Yeah.
to assimilate.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? Would you say that it's
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. I mean, as Reiki practitioners, we try to give ourselves Reiki every single day. So
Mhm,
with this constant conduit of just like healing energy, that
mhm,
we're constantly working on ourselves. So then we're in a good place to be able to help others. And I often say when I'm teaching students, and students will say to me that when they're doing the self healing, they don't feel anything. So don't worry about it. I don't feel a thing. I don't feel
mhm,
anything when I'm doing self healing. When I'm giving
mhm,
Reiki to somebody else, or when I'm receiving Reiki, totally different ball game. But when I'm doing self
mhm,
healing, I just trust in the process.
mhm,
And the very, very beautiful thing about it is it is so, so subtle that at the end of that session, you will just feel so light. You'll
mhm,
feel your vibration. You'll feel just as though something has been lifted. You don't know what it
yes.
is, but you just feel lighter. And if that's
Mhm,
the only thing you get from that day, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If that's all you
mhm.
get, if you just fall asleep, if that's all you get from your session, wonderful.
Yes. Oh, Reiki definitely helps me to sleep. And I
Mm.
know that there's a lot of people who struggle with insomnia, especially,
Mm.
here I've just noticed, and tell me if you've noticed it too. I've noticed in the last few years, especially, people saying, I really struggle to sleep, or I sleep very lightly, like everything wakes me up.
Mm.
And that can be a sign, I mean, that could also be a sign that, maybe you have a chemical imbalance, maybe your melatonin or your serotonin, from all of that, like we mentioned, all of the distractions that we have in the
Mm.
world,
Yeah.
that imbalance could happen. It could also be that you know, um, you're anxious. A lot of people
Mm.
suffer with anxiety and they have a
Yeah.
hard time like relaxing, calming down because they're constantly in a state, their nervous system's dysregulated and they're constantly in a state of fight or flight,
Yeah.
and sleep is just so imperative, and I think um as we move, like I said, into this new age where we start to understand energetics, I think people will take their rest and their sleep a lot more seriously. Would you agree with
Mm.
that?
Definitely, definitely. I think wellness now
Mhm,
is becoming the forefront of people's lives. They're becoming more in tune with themselves. Um, and I think a lot of what we've been through over the last 4 years, with everything, I think it's opened people's eyes to their own health a lot more. Um, and to be able to just, because like you said before about anxiety, social anxiety and anxiety in general is just like through the roof. Some
mhm,
people, you just don't want to speak. They're unable to speak, some people, because they're just so anxious, so like in the head, and there's just so much going on. And yeah, it's a really big time, I think, for people to start stepping into this world of and life of energetics, to realize how energy controls everything, absolutely everything. When you start seeing your life and your day and your whole being and all those around you as not just the physical, but the energy, if you see them as an energy, you can then find how actually they are depleting your energy, or having an effect on your energy, or having a positive
mhm,
effect on your energy, depending on who was around you at the time. um, because there's always those people that we might want to go and meet and talk to, but you might have like a bit of a, every time I go and meet them, I feel worse for it because they're just draining my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and like you said before about where we have to try and look after our own energy and take care of ourselves, so
Mm-hmm.
knowing what's out there to be able to do that to help us is so important.
Right.
Mm.
Absolutely. So what would you say to someone who, once again, is new to all of this? Maybe they've done a little bit of research. They know what Reiki is. Maybe they've never had Reiki, or maybe they have had Reiki and it just didn't have the effect that they were looking for.
Mm.
Would you say that the practitioner is important, is just as important as getting the Reiki?
I think it is because you have to have a rapport and you have to feel comfortable with them.
Mhm.
And you get that from their energy, and that's why as practitioners we work on ourselves every single day to keep
Mhm.
ourselves balanced and in a wonderful place. Because if we're calm, then they'll feel calm. If we're kind of like
Right.
all over the place and we're worrying about this and we're thinking about that, we're angry about what happened last week,
Right.
they can feel that, they can feel that off
Yeah.
you, and then it's like, oh well, I went, but I wasn't too sure. The guy was a bit like, he was a bit all over the place and he wasn't very
Mhm.
settled, and I didn't feel settled. So that people
Right.
can feel that. So that's why it's imperative for us as the practitioner to keep ourselves in that balanced place, that harmonious place, as much as we
Right.
can. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's so important to because it takes a level of trust, you're allowing somebody into your energy.
Hmm.
So it's like, not all, I guess not all Reiki is created equal, but I also think it's like you said, it's important to have a rapport, have really good communication with your practitioner. And do you ever find like you're working on someone? Oh yeah, maybe they come in for a weekly session or something, and you're working on them, and they're like, how are you? Oh, everything is fine. I'm fine. And you start working on them, and then you pick up on something, and they're
Hmm.
like, well, actually, like
Yeah.
I got in a fight with my husband last week, or whatever, earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And so you can sense that, like you can
Hmm.
pick up on that and feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can feel, you can certainly feel something. I might not always be aware exactly what it is, but I can certainly feel that there's something going on. There's some sort of
Hmm.
disturbance in the force, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can definitely be aware of it. Yeah.
Right.
Then
Right.
usually when you come to talk with the person at the end of the session, you can explain like what you're feeling, what part of the body, what that kind of connects to, emotionally or mentally or whatever. And then they were like, yeah, well, yeah, I had this incident. So then they start opening up and talking. And words have power as soon as you start talking about it. And that's what I found recently from, because usually with a Reiki session, there's not a lot of communication that goes on. You kind of like, you go along, I'll have a little bit of a chat with them, I'll see what they want, what they kind of want to get out the session, even though they get exactly what they need out the session anyway. And then you'll have a little bit of a chat afterwards just to bring them back around, bring them back to the planet kind of thing. Um, and then that's kind of it. But bringing in other modalities, such as being able to incorporate maybe a little bit of meditation at the beginning to just calm them down, maybe using EFT or some hypnosis
Mm.
techniques, and you can just get a general sense of what they're feeling internally.
Hmm.
I've started doing sort of mini. I call it like a Reiki sandwich. So I'll do like I sometimes do like an EFT session at the beginning, and I'll do an EFT session at the end. I'll stick Reiki in the
Mm.
middle, and just the other day, somebody came in and they were like really, really kind of like, they had a lot going on. So we did
Mm.
the EFT, we brought them down a little bit, did the Reiki, and
Mhm.
went back to it, back to what we call the Sud scale. And it had just dropped. It had dropped immensely from
Mm.
the first EFT and the Reiki. It just whoosh, it came right down. They felt so they just actually they used the same word. They said, I just feel lighter. job done. If that's what they've got, then perfect.
Okay, sorry. I accidentally hit my button, my mute button. They're like, stop talking. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so I love what you said, Reiki sandwich. I love that, and it's definitely something that I would like to partake in. Tell me about the EFT. So, for people who don't know what EFT is, could you kind of explain? I mean, like what that is and how that helps your clients?
So EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. A lot of people probably know it as tapping. So it's where you
Yes.
tap on like the parts of the body. So a lot of people might be aware of that already. If you're not aware of it, basically it's based on acupuncture points, meridians in the body, and basically you're tapping into those parts of the body that connect to the emotions, that connect to the organs in the body where you can hold emotions. So the stomach tend to always hold a lot of. Your stomach's a big emotional center. Your liver is a big
Yes.
emotional center. So you get all these points that are connected to those areas, and just to talking to the emotion and allowing yourself to feel the emotion and be aware that, yeah, I've got this emotion, but I love myself and I accept myself, and go through that process. And then usually the first time around, sometimes the phrases that we can use will be kind of like deemed as kind of possibly maybe quite negative, because you're actually just making yourself more aware of what it is, and you're tapping
Mhm.
into it, and you say, even though I'm dealing with this depression, I truly love and accept myself. And
Mhm.
even though every day feels hard or every day
Mhm.
feels difficult, I know I'll be okay. And you're just
Yes.
using phrases like that, and you're going through that, and you're speaking to it. And again, words have power. The more you
Mm.
speak to your body, speak to the emotion, you become more aware of it, and it lifts a little bit.
Mhm.
When you've done that lifting,
Mhm.
you go into your Reiki session. The Reiki is just like, it just, it's like spring cleans your aura, your auric field,
Mm.
spring cleans all those things and blocks and whatever might be arising from what you've identified with the emotions. Then go back to your EFT and then see how you feel. See, are those emotions still there? Have they changed into something else? Because usually what will
Mhm.
happen is the mind will it'll give you an emotion, but actually the emotion that the mind has given you is something totally different to what it's covering up. So sometimes something else might lift, but a lot of the time it tends to just go really, really calm, really
Mhm.
gentle, and you just like the client said just the other day, they just felt so light, felt so much
Yeah.
lighter, and the head wasn't full of clutter. So yeah.
Magnificent. Yeah, because, as as much as like, we have to deal with our energetics and dealing with the things in the spirit realm, you know, all of our other bodies, our emotional body, our mental body, can also have an effect on our physical body,
Hmm.
and how we feel. They're all connected, in other words.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, so I love that. I think that's actually brilliant, to, like you
Mm,
said, do the tapping first and then going back on the other end and being like, okay, is
yeah.
it still there? Are you still carrying it? So what do you do if somebody is still carrying those things? Would you take them through another session? Would you continue working on them? How would you handle that?
Yeah, I would probably go through another tapping session with them, just to
Mhm.
see, because if they're still feeling something, it might actually be transforming into something else. It might be transforming into another feeling or another emotion. So I'll probably go through the tapping session again, just to see if it's still there. And
Mhm.
what I like to do is I like to get the person just to sit, close their eyes, just take a few deep breaths in, and I'll just ask them to just tune into your body. Just be aware of that. The first emotion that you feel, where do you feel it? Where
Mhm.
is it in your body? Is it in your head? Is it in your heart? Is it in your, where
Mhm.
is it? It can be anywhere in the body.
Mhm.
And then I'll ask them to just like, right, with your eyes closed, just visualize it, see it. Can you give it a color? Can you attribute it to anything? is there another emotion that might be actually underneath it that might be wanting to show
Mm,
itself? And if that's there, there might be a feeling of something like a fear that's actually there. So where's this come from? Okay, we can't. I'm not doing a past life hypnosis, but we can look at that fear and just say, right, okay, just close your eyes again and just tell me where this fear is coming from. Tell me where you think it's actually stemmed from. Is it
mm,
something that's happened in this life, or is it something that you're not really aware of? If it's something they're not aware of, it could be something that's just like so deeply hidden that maybe you need to do a hypnosis session with them just to discover it and find it, because it'll be the
right.
subconscious has kind of filed it away kindly for them and just said you don't need to worry about that, as the
Yes.
subconscious mind likes to do.
Right.
So yeah,
As you do. you know.
as you do.
Seriously, yeah. And I think it's important too, and I'd love to talk about hypnosis in just a moment, but I just want to kind of ping off of what you said. You were talking about how like there can be an emotion, it can be layers, in other
Mm,
words.
mm,
Maybe the person has like a prevailing feeling of shame or
mm,
something like that. And that's why it's like so important. People think, I've heard so many people, anyways, say, oh, well, the past is the past. It doesn't really matter. But when you're, I know, right?
I shouldn't.
It's
I
like,
shouldn't laugh.
and that's, I know. We can't help ourselves because we know better, but it's
Yeah.
like, that's something else. Like, I've actually had to have this same conversation with my husband. Like, he's like, he doesn't even like to go back in the past, and I'm like, yeah, but you have to feel it to heal it.
Mm,
That's a very common saying,
mm,
among Reiki practitioners. You have to feel it to heal it. um and so it's like and really important to kind of go down to the layers. Also, I want to note, like, as these things come up, as these things start to kind of wellspring out of you, as
mm,
you practice these modalities, as you do the tapping, as you do the Reiki, or whatever the case may be, you're going to get emotional. And I've
mm,
noticed that in the times where I have Reiki, or like you said, I do Reiki on myself. I find that you can no longer repress, because
mm,
if you want those things to flow, if you want your energy to be free and clear, like you said, like, you have to feel it. You have to feel it to heal it. And you can't ignore what's coming up. It's like, here you
mm.
go. And
Yeah.
people may say, I've heard people say, oh, well, if it makes you sad, or make you feel really emotional afterwards, is it really working? Is it, I mean, that's kind of sounds like a bad thing, but it's
Mm,
actually not. It's
mm.
bringing those things up to the surface. And
Yeah.
that, to me, is one of the most amazing parts about Reiki and about energy healing.
Mm,
Is it just like unloads it, I guess. Like,
yeah.
it just
Yeah.
allows it to surface. And you are so clear, you're so free from stagnation and inability to process those things, that
Mm,
you feel it, and then you feel, so like you said, you feel so much lighter, you feel so much
mm.
better.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
But I
Exactly.
think, yeah, and I think we just all as a collective need to get past this, this stigma, I guess, that it's bad if we're sad. It's bad
Mm,
if we're angry. It's bad. All of these emotions are good or bad. They just are.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're all valid.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, your feelings matter. Your
Mm,
feelings are valid. You are
yeah.
valid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So allow yourself to be honored in having this process.
Mm, yeah. Definitely.
Hmm.
Something that's been cropping up lately a lot for me, and I just keep hearing the words mind over matter. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, yeah, the mind does so much, but the mind controls your matter. It can
Hmm.
control it helps your physical body. So
Right.
yeah, okay, your mind helps you move. Your mind, you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think, yeah, oh, I need to think about my heart beating, because it just does it. Your autonomic nervous system does it for
Hmm.
you. And the mind, yeah, it can work in wonderful ways, but it also works in very mysterious ways. And and having a balance of knowing what the mind does and how it can operate, and how as well social conditioning makes people think, oh, we mustn't feel that,
Mm-hmm.
we have to just suppress that, and a lot of that comes from, a lot of it comes from like probably our ancestors. It was always the very manly thing to do. You look after the house and you don't cry, and you do all that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. um
But
and yeah, whereas now I
yeah.
think it is becoming a lot more socially acceptable
Mm-hmm.
to be able to see a man cry, to show his emotions. That shows more
Mm-hmm.
strength to me.
Yeah.
Mm,
Absolutely. And as much as it is more so, you know, or seemingly to be a masculine, thing, but there's also women who, they were shamed
mm,
uh too, and they have a hard time um processing their emotions, allowing themselves to show emotion, um become very stoic,
yeah.
because and they were like leaning more into their masculine side because they
Mm,
had to, because they were in survival mode, and
yeah.
they never really knew or know how to tap into um their femininity, but they also don't know how to tap into their emotional side either,
Mm,
you know
yeah. Yeah.
and that's why it's so important to, like, value all of the parts of the self, right?
Mm, yeah.
And
Yeah.
not let one, I mean, maybe you lean more into one when you have to, when it's
Mm,
necessary, but also like trying to maintain that balance, that equilibrium within. It's not just, within the different bodies. It's also the masculine and the feminine side,
mm,
right?
yeah. 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 And trying to explain that to people as well, like how they operate.
Mhm.
So sometimes, I don't know if you get this with Reiki or Reiki sessions, but sometimes you can feel when you're doing the work on somebody, you can feel that if it's, say, if it's a woman, you can feel that they've got more of a masculine energy. They're just like a do,
Mhm.
and that kind of feminine, creative, flowing side of them is just kind of like, it's there, but just about. But they're just being so like, they just got to do, and that's how, again,
Mhm.
social conditioning. It's how people get kind of like programmed, because we don't really get the time I suppose, in the mainstream world. I suppose you don't get the time to be able to find that balance, and I suppose
Mhm.
that's why it's good to be able to learn about energy in our own time, to educate ourselves. And it's not just like some sort of woo woo practice. It
Right.
is scientifically proven that everything is energy.
Right.
So yeah, it's vitally important.
Mhm. Absolutely. Okay, so since we were mentioning it earlier, I'd love to talk about it now, if that's
Hmm.
okay, about
Hmm.
hypnosis.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your hypnosis journey and how, you've kind of found yourself wanting to be a practitioner.
So I've always been really, really into meditation. So I'll do, like, I'm a
Mm,
meditation teacher and coach as well. And
wonderful.
then I started tuning into hypnosis, and obviously I'd had a few sessions with some of the SCHH crew, and I was really interested in that modality.
Hmm.
And but then I also saw another guy who was a hypnosis teacher as well. So, and I felt drawn to him, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna start doing some lessons, and they were online lessons. But I
Hmm.
kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And I was like, what's stopping me here? There's something that's kind of like holding me back. And anyway, a couple of my friends who were like psychics and whatever, they messaged me and just said, why have you not done your hypnosis training? I'm being told to tell you to get it done. Yeah, I know. Okay, right.
I
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
Get off my back.
So I just kind of went for it, and I just thought, you know what, let's just do it, go for it. Paid for the course. And it was the first course was classed as like the clinical hypnosis part of it. So it's basically getting the person into a trance state.
Mm-hmm.
The second part of it was the past life regression part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then that was like the follow-on course from that. And he's got loads of other courses to do. But in doing that, I've kind of, because he said towards the end of the course, he said, although you do use scripts, he said try to not be reliant on the script because it
Right.
becomes very very robotic. And he said if you want someone to go into hypnosis, you have to go in there with them.
Right.
So
Oh,
that
I love
was,
that. Yes.
yeah. So
You
that for
do.
me,
You are
yeah.
so involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like with some of my clients, I was doing like guided meditations with them, and we were trying to find like these blocks or these emotions through guided meditations. And I just thought, you know what, this is just like hypnosis. This is hypnosis. They're doing exactly what they would be doing in a hypnosis. So I just started altering my hypnosis and trying to think of a new way of wording things and scripting things,
Mm,
trying to work it out myself. And I've just kind of like I've just gone into it, and just decided to just like I've got like one for like higher self healing. I've got one for inner wisdom healing, just so we can look at ourselves internally. I've got ourselves where we can look at
mm,
like the past life regression, going down that path. So yeah, and I mean, the, and the other thing as well that the instructor said that it said was, he said the only thing holding you back with hypnosis is your imagination. He said you can do
mm.
absolutely anything you want. Once someone's in hypnosis and they're in trance, you can take them wherever you want,
Mhm.
and they will just go. It's their journey internally. They're doing the healing. It's their journey. It's
Right.
not like we're, because stage hypnosis is totally, totally different ball game. So we're not there to make them make chicken noises or eat a raw onion or anything like that. So because that's kind of like that's kind of like what a lot
Oh
of
my
people say. A lot of people
God.
see that, and it puts them in fear of hypnosis
Right.
because I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I don't want to look like an idiot. I don't, that's not what hypnosis is about. Real hypnosis,
Right.
healing hypnosis is totally, totally different. And it's beautiful. When you're in there and you're in there with them, you're seeing usually what they're seeing. You're
Mhm.
connecting with what they're connecting. You're feeling
Yes.
what they're feeling. And you're so
Yes.
there with them. It's beautiful. It's
Yes.
absolutely beautiful.
It so is. And it's like you said, like, you can, as a practitioner, like, you can make it your own.
Mm,
And like you said, and I totally understand about, because at one time when I was practicing, I felt very robotic, like you said.
mm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, and now, I felt, and I was like, okay, I need to, I'm overthinking this. Like, I need to, like,
Yeah.
because you flow with it
Yeah.
eventually,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and so sometimes, and you just, I say it's like a box of chocolates, you just don't know what
Mm,
you're going to be dealing with once you get in there.
yeah.
But you need to be able to kind of think on your feet a little bit and like
Mm,
navigate, because there may be a situation during the hypnosis that arises, and your client may not know like how to navigate it themselves, and so they're
mm.
looking to you
Yeah.
throughout this
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
process to be like, get me out of here,
Yeah. Yeah.
or tell me what to do next, because I don't know. And they'll start having like physical, like, um
Yeah, things can
symptoms
happen,
and things like
yeah.
that. Mhm.
Yeah, they can start getting really fearful, or they might start
Mhm.
crying, or they might
Mhm.
just go so in on themselves that
Mhm.
you lose them out of the hypnotic state because they're in
Right.
that kind of fight or flight and they just want to get
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
And people can come out of hypnosis whenever they want to if they're in that state. So, but it's always nice to be in there and the longer you're there, the deeper you go, the more healing takes
Mhm.
place. It's a
Right.
really wonderful. And when you wake up, when you come out of it, you feel your whole body just like zinging,
Yeah, exactly.
vibrating. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're going into a part of yourself you typically don't,
Mm,
and
yeah.
you're accessing it, but you're also in a semi-conscious state. So you're just
Mm,
kind of like, whoa, like
yeah. Yeah.
firing on all cylinders at that point.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Is there any way, and if you can't, I totally understand. Is there any way you could share like a really profound experience that you've had with hypnosis, whether it was, yourself or somebody else that was receiving it?
There was a session that I did for somebody a while back,
Mhm.
and I was guiding him through. We're doing a past life regression hypnosis, and he was in this place, and he felt so cold, like, and you could hear him
Mm.
because he had like a microphone on, and you
Mhm.
could hear him actually physically shaking because he was so cold because of the
Oh.
environment that he was in. And I was just like, "Oh, what's this? Is this something like that we're going to have to deal with? Is it something like negative? What's happening?" And then he saw these cowled figures with like the hooded, like black cowls and what have you.
Whoa.
And then he realized he was actually one of them. So and they were in this circle, and they were like a I suppose like a brotherhood, I suppose, of sorts. But they were um I suppose they were like maybe like they were blue and they were hairy. That's all I can remember. Um, so, but I think he'd said they were like sort of maybe like Arcturian. But there was
Mm.
one of them which was kind of like the leader. Um, but he did say there was quite a few of them that were like scared and they were fearful.
Mm.
And I was guiding him through it, and this whole time that he was cold, and I could hear him, like, and I actually said to him, "Are you okay to experience this, or do you want to move past this point?" And he was like, "No, I want to experience this because I want to see what's happening." And then he went into this circle of these hooded, cloaked figures, and realized that he was actually part of them. Um, but he said, did say there was like an unusual sort of fearful energy around them, and it was coming
Mhm.
from a few of them in the circle. And that was probably for me because he was feeling that cold. I started feeling the cold as well, and I
Whoa.
started getting like that kind. I was getting goosebumps, and I was getting like shivers, and I was just like, "Oh, what's this? This is quite unusual." Um, and then the scene was taken from like there, and they kind of like went up in this beam of light and ended up in a ship. And I know a lot of hypnosis practitioners, usually people end up in a ship somewhere. And they'd gone on this ship, and again, there was this cold feeling in the ship. And he'd said, "I don't want to be here. I'm fearful of my life in this place." So that was like, right, okay, so we're going to move past this point now, and we're going to move you to an area of the ship where it's fine. There is a nice temperature, and it feels warm, and you feel safe. Tell
Mhm.
me what you feel, tell me what you see. And they'd move past, it moved away from that area.
Mhm.
And what had actually happened was the ship had been kind of overrun by these beings, and were being kind of attacked, but he was in a safe space on the ship. So yeah, it was unusual, that one. It was really unusual. But the other thing about it, at the end of the past life, we do what's known as like a higher self regression, a higher self healing session. Sorry.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we go to the realm of the higher self, and he had some questions. Because I asked him about a week before, if he had any questions, send them to me. I'll write them down, and we'll work through them. So in the hypnosis session, he's talking very calmly and very quietly, talking about the experiences, talking about what he's going through, and I'm guiding him through it in a nice, gentle voice. You get to his higher self, and he totally changes. His whole character, his whole demeanor changes, and he's the way he's speaking, the way he's talking, the way he's wording and speaking. It's just so like matter of fact. Bum 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 bum. And at the end, when he's finished answering the question, I always say, ask the higher self to just say, oh, when you finished giving me your answer, just say, that is all. And the answer that came through, the information was just so fast, so rapid, and it didn't sound like him at all. And it was sounded like a totally different person. And that's
Mm.
when you know you kind of like you are connecting with the highest, some higher selves that you speak to. It's just like um it will just give you a yes or no answer. It'll just be like
Mhm.
so matter of fact. his answers were like, because I was writing his answers down, and I couldn't keep up with with the way with the where the
Mhm.
information was coming through. But it was really really interesting. And my because I sent that video over to my hypnosis teacher, and he said, "Wow." Even he was like amazed by what was coming through, and
Yeah.
the way his whole body and his demeanor and the way he was talking changed into that of his higher self.
Wow. Yeah,
Mm.
it's pretty remarkable when that happens. It's
Yeah.
like you're like, "Okay," and you can I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you can, but I feel a definitive shift, like,
Mm.
whenever I know that the higher self is present, you know,
Mm.
and, like,
Yeah.
speaking through them. It is it's wild, you
Mm.
know,
It is.
it's like everything in the room just got plugged in, you know, it's
Yeah.
just real it's really electric, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
magnetic as well. You just feel so
Yeah.
drawn into it. It really is. It's fantastic. Really interesting.
Wow, that is such a cool story. Thank you
Hmm.
for sharing that with
Hey, you're
us. That's
welcome.
really yeah. So, are you what type of hypnosis are you performing now?
So now it is. I've got the past life and higher self regression.
Mhm.
So there's them two, and then there's the inner wisdom healing that I've decided to create my own with that.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, I'm getting adventurous, and then and
And
then
we
I'm
love
look.
that. We love that.
Yeah, and again, like my instructor said, he said there's only your imagination is going to hold you back. So then I was trying to think about other ways of, what can we do here, what can we do there,
Yeah.
and some of them had.
Because really the sky's the limit, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's the probably the coolest and probably the most infuriating part about
yeah,
hypnosis. Aside
yeah,
from the having to wing it part, you know?
yeah,
'But
yeah,
you can totally do whatever, you know, I mean,
mm,
it is such I would say malleable modality. It's wonderful in that way.
yeah. I know at the beginning of the SCHH sessions that I've had, you
Mhm.
always get taken into like a garden,
Mhm.
and the garden's described to you, and that's where you do a lot of kind of clearing and what have you in
Mhm.
this garden. And
Right.
I've used like a similar technique in the inner wisdom healing technique that I use, and it's
Mm.
kind of like where you take them into the garden and then ask them to see the garden around them, and you describe that you don't tell them what colors the flowers are, but you just say you are surrounded by so many wonderful colored flowers,
Okay.
and you can smell the aroma of the flowers, and you can just feel the grass under your feet. You really plant them
Yeah.
in that place.
Yeah, it's
And
like a
now,
sensory experience.
yeah, and then I ask
Mhm.
them to like highlight a flower which stands out to you, and what color is it. So we go into the color, so we
Mm.
identify the color, and just tell me what you feel from that color. What's the emotion that you feel in that color? So then we go deeper with that.
Ooh.
We go into the emotion. And where's this color? If it was in the body, where would you feel it within the body? So then we go into that. We go into the body. So we're taking it from like the spiritual realm of the visualization.
Mhm.
We're internalizing it to find out where it is. And then I'll say, right now, when you visualize that space of that color, or where it is in the body, I want you to
Mhm.
just take some nice deep breaths in, and I want you to see that color just filled with a radiant white light, and then just allow it to lift, allow it to be released. Because if it's not there for your highest good, you can let it go, and
Right.
you can give it permission to leave. If you don't
Mm.
want it there, give it permission to leave.
Yes.
Mm,
Because that's another part, and I'm glad you're talking about it. It's just like flowing. We're flowing into all the things today. But one of the things that helps us with our energy healing is like remembering and knowing that we are sovereign,
mm,
right? And
mm-hmm,
so that's kind of what you were talking about. It's like, remember that part of you, remember that you are sovereign
mm-hmm,
and that anything that is in your life, anything that is attached to you, anything that you've carried over, anything in your subconscious mind is basically been allowed,
mm,
and it's something that but you can transcend that, right?
mm-hmm,
So I love
yeah,
that. and that is a beautiful part about hypnosis to me, and tell me if you agree, is that you can essentially remember on at least on some level of your sovereignty,
Mhm.
and you
Yeah.
can transmute so many things because you're not, like you said, using that monkey brain, the monkey
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah. Yeah.
because our minds are powerful,
Mm.
and but it's also a tool, and we just
Yeah.
need to use it wisely,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which most of us probably don't,
Yeah.
but whenever you allow like one part of your energy body, to be like the driving force and to take over, like, I mean, we talk about the mind a lot, like being too much in your head and overthinking,
Mm.
but if you also allow, like, just your emotional body to be so predominant, and like you can't function, like you
Mm.
can't focus on anything, you can't get anything done, um you can't reason, you can't logic, anything, because you're
Mm.
just so in this well,
Yeah.
and you can't seem to
Yeah.
get your way out.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And like us, like we talked about before, actually talking to the body. You
Hmm.
don't have to be with a practitioner. You
Right.
can be on your own. If you're feeling something internally and you're aware,
Hmm.
it's having that level of awareness. Firstly, you need to have that
Hmm.
level of awareness of your body, of what is going on. Most people will go day to day throughout life being angry all their life, and
Hmm.
the wonder why they don't know why they're there. They don't know why they're in that space, but that's
Hmm.
just their normal state of being all their life.
Right.
um, when you become more aware of it and you can feel, right, I know I've got there's something there. I'm not sure what it is. I'm not sure what the emotion is. And this is something that happened to me probably about 2 months ago. And I had this overriding indigestion and heartburn, stomach upset
Ooh.
feeling. And I'm just like, oh, what is this? So I just sat and I just closed down my eyes and I just talked to my body. I was like, right, okay, where do I feel it? So I was feeling it in my stomach. I was like, right, okay, so what is it? And you can connect to your higher self so easily. Your higher self will always give you the first answer. Your
Mhm.
ego will give you the stupid answer. So, usually, so, but the first answer I got was anger. Well, I'm not an angry person, but let's go
Mhm.
with that. I'm not going to follow the ego and go, well, you're not an angry person. You shouldn't be angry, because that's how the ego
Mhm.
likes to work. So I was
Mhm.
like, right, okay, I just closed down my eyes. I was just like, right, this anger, I want it to leave. I give this
Mhm.
anger permission to leave. And I just repeated that
Mhm.
over and over and over again. And I could feel my stomach getting more upset. It was getting more this feeling was just like, and I let out this huge belch
Mhm.
came out, and everything just subsided. And I got these me eyes welled up with I didn't cry, but welled up with moisture, with tears, as though I was about to
Mhm.
cry.
Mhm.
And this anger just came up and just, and it just belched and it just came out. And I was just like, and my stomach settled. It all went away. And it's not easy when you become kind of like tuned in a little bit to your body and
Mhm.
you're aware of what's going on.
Right.
It's not easy to try and access it. Um, yeah, so it's all energy. It's all energy that can get trapped. It really is.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely. And you make a good point about like having like the visceral reactions, to
Mm.
these energies happening, these energies coming up. Um, you know, and maybe you experience this as well. Whenever you're doing a clearing for someone, and sometimes I will belch,
Mm.
or I'll yawn, or sometimes I've even sneezed before,
Mm.
and just like these energies just get pushed out,
Mm-hmm.
um that can also signify, that we are doing some kind of energetic work, energetic healing, and
Yeah.
sometimes it just manifests as a physical reaction, know,
Yeah. Absolutely.
which is pretty cut and dry, pretty clear cut and
Mm.
obvious,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's amazing. And I love how you said, you're like, I give this anger permission to leave,
Mm.
and you were like, I could sit here and say, well, I'm not an angry person. This, that's just made up. Like, I ate too many peppers on my pizza, or something, like dismiss it in some way,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you were like, no, I'm gonna roll with it. It's almost like you have to have some level of detachment. Like,
Mm.
this emotion, this feeling, or whatever this is, I'm just gonna lean into it
Mm.
and ask it what it wants and tell it to leave, or give it
Mm.
permission, like you said, to leave,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important to just listen to the body, because the body,
Mm,
we often, because when we talk about, and even a lot of people now, even when we talk about energy healing, they always think of the physical first.
right.
They don't think of the other things that are behind, the mental,
Hmm.
emotional, and spiritual, because
Hmm.
the physical is the one that, like you say, we yawn, we sneeze, we cough, we cry.
Right.
It's the physical that kind of gives the symptoms, or it gives the reactions. So we get stuck in the physical mindset. We don't
Hmm.
think of what's behind, what's
Hmm.
going on internally in the mental,
Right.
emotional, and spiritual.
Right. Because this is what's real, right?
Mm,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah,
this meat suit is what I call it,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
what's real, and
yeah.
everything else is just make believe, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the and that's kind of the mindset that you find with some people. And
Yeah.
it's like, and I try not to judge people like that, because it's like everybody has to go through their own process and
Hmm.
learn in their own way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I
Mhm.
think we all start on that level. We all start with the physical,
Mhm.
because that's, like you said, that's what we know. That's what we can kind
Mhm.
of attune to. We can attune to the physical. We know what we look like. We
Mhm.
know how we feel and what have you.
Right.
And then when you start to delve deeper into the realms of energy, you start to realize there's a lot more to the physical body, because we have the nerves, we have the nervous system, we have everything that goes on, and we have all these organs, we have the
Mhm.
chakras, we have the energy points, we have the meridians, and all this knowledge and all this wisdom that's been there for thousands of years, from
Mhm.
Egyptians to China to way beyond that as well. They
Mhm.
knew all about that, and we're just kind of tapping back into it now,
Right.
where people are becoming more aware of it.
Right. And I'm here for it, and I love it.
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
because it's kind of like what I mentioned, at the very beginning, is how we're moving into a time where we are going to remember.
Mm.
And even though we're moving into we are in the age of Aquarius, we're moving deeper into it. You
Mm.
know, we have forgotten so much about how to access these things, um, as human beings. It's like
Yeah.
things, like you said, that our ancestors knew, and it's almost going to be like having a new spin on it, maybe, in a
Mm.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, and so that's why, like, it's just so important to not not label what somebody else's healing journey looks like,
Mm.
and knowing that you don't have there's no regimen, right? like
Yeah. Yeah.
like you may and maybe eventually you could have a regimen, but it's also like feeling into it and, like, noticing, like you said, what's coming up, because there's no it's not systematic. it's
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
not there's no, like, logical order, there's no chronological thing, that can
Yeah.
necessarily be done. Sometimes you just, everybody's health energetic healthcare plan looks different.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And
you
like you
know
said, that there's no definite
mm,
thing. There's no definite point. There's no definite
right.
path that we have to take. We all take our
No.
own journey. We all take our own path. And I think if we can tap into our intuition as well as much as possible, and
Mm,
really tap into this innate ability that every single one of us has, we can learn so much more about ourselves, deeper, deeper
mhm,
knowledge, deeper wisdom that just comes from the spirit. It comes from what you're feeling. what you know
Mhm.
internally. The answers
Mhm.
just come. The answers are already there.
Right.
Mm.
And we all have that wisdom inside of us. That's
Yeah,
what's so cool
yeah,
about it, you know?
yeah.
Um, and that's why, like, you know, I've had many a conversation with people, and I try to remind them that they are their own healer, you
Yeah.
know? People like you and I who we do this for a living, you know, we can
Mm.
certainly help facilitate, but at the end of the day, it's our personal responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's, if you know, if you want to take it seriously and you want to do the work, if you're not scared to do the work, I mean, we're all scared to do the work, are you
Mm.
kidding?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we don't want, this is the last thing we want to do. You know, but it's a journey, you know,
Yeah.
it's something that unfolds. It's like you said, the onion. You know,
So
it's like,
sometimes you have no option. Sometimes you get
right.
thrown in and you have to deal with it.
Facts, big facts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Other times, it might just be general things that you want to work on.
Hmm. Right.
But yeah, you are the healer. The actual person that has gone for the sessions, that has gone to find someone that they can work with to work on themselves. They are doing the healing work because again, they've given themselves permission. Like we
Hmm.
give permission for the anger, for the feelings to leave. We're giving
Hmm.
ourselves permission to work on ourselves.
Right.
We are making that definitive decision to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
You know, I've had family members who, you know, have struggled with addiction. And
Mm,
one of the things that they say is, you know, like the first step in healing is in admitting you have a problem, you know.
mm, yeah.
And I think you, like, before any big journey can begin, it's like admitting, like, okay, maybe I do need some help, you know, maybe I
Mm,
do need to dive in and do this, because
yeah.
nobody's going to do it for you, obviously. You know.
Mm, yeah.
And everybody can sit there and give you all of the tools, they can lay it out on a silver platter, but at the
Hmm.
end of the day, you still have to do the work, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and I think we get addicted to our pain, or maybe
Mm.
we've had it for so long that we almost identify with it,
I was just about
you
to say
know?
that we identify with it, and that's what we use
Mhm.
as a shield. We
Yeah.
use that as a shield for
Or an
ourselves.
excuse, yeah.
Yeah. And the ego loves it. The ego loves pain. The ego loves trauma because it's something else that can just point back and say, yeah, but look what I've been through.
Right,
Look at all this suffering that I've had. Like, okay, yeah, I understand. I know. But you've also got to make a decision for yourself.
right.
You can't go every day like that. And that's why I say some people, I was a perfect example of that. Some people, you either do it or you die, basically. And that's where I was. I was there with my mental health.
Mhm.
I was at the point where if I wasn't here, it wouldn't really matter. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter. I'd be quite happily gone. Look where I am now. Look how far I've come. This has been like 20 plus years in the making. And this is what you it's not easy and it's not a quick fix, but look at the outcome and have
Right.
have your mind have something in your mind that you can fixate on and just say, this is where I want to be.
Mhm.
I might not be there now, but with each step, each day, I can get there and I will get there. And I'm still doing it. I'm still on the journey. I'm still working on myself. I still have issues. I'm no guru. I'm not perfect. I'm just your everyday guy that goes through your usual run of the mill stuff, but I try to be aware of it and I try and work on it as best as I can.
And my hat's off to you, sir. You know, I appreciate you. And as you heal yourself, you know, we heal each other. You know, we heal the world, we heal our
Yeah,
community, we heal our
yeah,
family, we heal our lineage, you know.
hmm,
And that's why one of the reasons, like, I say to people, I honor your journey.
mm,
Everybody's journey is different. Like, I honor the path that led you to here
yeah,
and wanted to ask for help, you know?
yeah. That's
So,
beautiful. That's
thank
beautiful.
you.
Beautiful thing to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I truly mean it. You know, I mean it with all my heart, and I honor your journey, Ian, you know,
Mm,
cuz I know that probably wasn't easy for you to say, you know, but
mm,
it's your testimony, you
mm.
know? And I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
important that we share that too. You know, we
yeah,
share that vulnerability with others. Like,
yeah.
"Hey man, there was a time where, you know, things were pretty bleak,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
and I moved through it, and if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went through all the addiction stuff. There was
Mm,
smoking and drinking and all that sort of stuff that we
mm,
use to try and suppose counteract or hide behind. But yeah,
yeah,
you just gotta take the bull by the horns really and just get on with it and just take it one step at a time. And that
yeah,
first step is the most important and most crucial. Just
right.
being able to make that decision and do it. Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And I think it's important to just across the board, not just on our healing journey, but not to compare ourselves to others
Hmm.
because it's absolutely pointless. Be like,
Yeah.
"Well, I had it worse than you."
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
my
yeah.
life is like way harder than yours, and
Mm,
it's like
yeah.
pain is relative, and we all have an experience, and we can't negate other people's experiences. The only one that we truly can understand and know about is our own, right?
Mm,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of pointless to compare yourself in
yeah,
general. So
yeah. I
yeah.
sent some love out to the earth just this morning actually, and
Mm,
then to the collective and to humanity. And I was just sat meditating. I'd done my self healing, done my Reiki session, felt all nice and light, and I went into this wonderful trance state. And my eyes were just, I didn't blink at all for ages, and I saw all the wonderful colors of energy all around me. The whole room was just filled. And I just
mm,
started saying, I am love and I'm sending love to the collective. I'm sending love to the
mm.
earth. I'm sending love to all of humanity for the highest good, and the room just went this wonderful sort of purpley pink color. Oh, it was amazing. Beautiful.
Oh man, that
And when I
sounds rad.
stepped out of it, I was just like, oh, I'm back to earth again.
Oh man, you know.
Oh man, back here.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna be meditate all day. I don't blame you. But yeah, oh man. Yeah, you can get like so blissed out sometimes on that stuff
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you're like, when you wake up from it, it's a letdown. I guess I'll go to the grocery store. It's three I call it 3D shit.
Yeah, 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 yeah. The 3D world.
Oh, it is indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is
Mm,
so this is kind of like the part where we talk about the collective for just a minute. Like what are
mhm.
some things that you're noticing, like themes, I guess you could say, that you're noticing in the collective here recently or right now?
Mm. It's it's been unusual energy lately. Very
Mm,
unusual what I'm feeling. It's been, and to be honest with you, I think this has been going on for some time, but it almost feels as though um it's like people splitting and splitting and splitting and becoming like smaller groups and smaller
mm,
groups. And I don't know if you noticed, but the finger pointing started again with some like sort of some of these kind of these woke groups and
mm,
conspiracy groups and whatever. There's a lot of finger pointing and a lot of sort of like heavy energy going out there from them. Um,
mm,
but I also feel as though it's kind of like sorting the wheat from the chaff. It's like it's doing it for a purpose because behind it feels extremely positive and extremely bright and high vibrational and
mm,
2024 like I did like a reading on my channel for 2024 just to see what I was like feeling and what was going to come from it. And I think this year
mhm,
is going to be like big. It's going to like really kind of like sort some stuff out. And there's going to be a lot of, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of discoveries. I think there's going to
yeah.
be a lot of kind of like hidden knowledge. All of a sudden, it's just like, oh, look what we found, and it's been there all along. Um,
Right.
like abracadabra, it's just like there. But yeah, I think this year is going to be epic, really big, and more people as well stepping onto like a spiritual journey, but we have to be there for them as well, because as we all step onto a new spiritual journey early on,
Mhm.
we know what we like. It kind of like the ego gets in, so we have to be kind of like there for them to just, I suppose, steer the rudder. I guess like we're kind of like just guiding along, like in a ship, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been unusual. I think coming from 2023 into 2024 now, um, especially getting January out the way. January felt, for me, it was a long month and it felt very heavy, and it was like a lot of heavy stuff was like going in January.
Yeah.
When February came round, I was just like, bing, oh, we're back again. We're back online. So
Right.
yeah, so this month's felt really positive and really good. I think,
Yeah.
because I know, like, I can't remember when it was, but when Pluto did the Aquarius thing, and it's in there for
Mhm.
quite some time, isn't it? When that
Yes.
happened, I was just like, oh, okay, this is gonna this is gonna like do a lot of kicking people up the backside, and it has, and I've felt it as well.
Period. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So doing
100%.
doing a bang up
Pluto
job.
did not come to play with us for sure.
No, absolutely not. So yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. What about you? What have you been feeling?
Um, okay, so since we were already talking about Pluto, of course, it touched on Aquarius like early last year, and then it is going to retrograde back into Capricorn for just a minute, and then it's going to go back into Aquarius for I think 20 years is what they said.
Mm,
And I feel like when Pluto, because like I was like you, I was like January 2024 felt like the 13th month of 2023 to me.
yeah.
I was like I was like, "When is this new year gonna start?"
Yeah.
And and when it went into Aquarius, like, at the winter solstice, or no, when was it? No, it was January 20th. Um, I was like, "Oh, okay. I can get on board with this energy," it felt a definitive shift.
Mm,
Um but I agree. I totally agree with you when you talk about discoveries, like hidden knowledge, like coming up to the surface. I definitely
mm,
agree with that sentiment. And I definitely agree that we're going to be seeing like a lot of power struggles. Maybe that's where, you were talking about like the finger pointing. Like, I feel like
mm,
that is kind of a theme of power struggle that we're
mm,
noticing.
mm.
Um, People calling people out, not
Yeah,
wanting to
yeah.
take responsibility for things. Um, and
Again.
again, as usual, but it's just going to be more obvious. Like, people, like, especially people in positions of power.
Mm,
I did a whole forecast about the numerology for this year and power, like people in positions of power. Like, I'm talking like upper echelon. Like,
mm.
they're going to have to start answering for the things that they've been doing,
Yeah.
and people are not taking that mess,
Mm,
anymore. Like, we
yeah.
have had it, y'all. Like, period, end of story. We are
Yeah.
so done. But
Yeah.
we're gonna be reclaiming our power.
Yeah.
Um, and I've also been noticing a lot around grief. Like,
Mm,
grief coming up, just like maybe it's been suppressed, not wanting to acknowledge, like
mm,
losses that you've had, or maybe just like finally at a place in your life where you're like, okay, I can process this grief now.
mm.
Even if
Yeah.
it was something that happened years ago.
Mm,
um and it could be, kind of, now that I think about it, what you mentioned about, the last 4 years, and
mm,
everything that we saw, with the Rona, and
mhm.
everything that we've dealt with that. um, People finally starting to be like, I can process through this now.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
safe to do that, because
Mm,
we were all like, I think we've all disassociated the last 3 years, as a collective
yeah.
together, and be like, what just happened? And every time we think we've got a handle, something else comes along.
Yeah.
Um, and probably the other thing is like noticing, people's like we were talking about ego earlier.
Mm,
One of the messages that I channeled last year, I think it was January of last year, it was about like like you said, not being able to hide, from
mm,
different parts of the self, and
yeah.
like having aspects of self, like maybe something we've heavily identified with, dissolving.
Mm,
Essentially, a layer of ego dissolving
yeah.
so we can start accessing, other parts of ourselves,
Mm,
and not identifying with that anymore and being like, okay, I can move on from that. So definitely
yeah.
a moving forward, like you said, moving forward
Mm,
trajectory, like a it feels really good,
mm,
it
yeah.
actually feels pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I don't want everybody to think, it's all doom and gloom and dread,
Mm,
because there even though we have all this mess that we have to deal with, it's still like there's things happening beneath the surface that need to
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, and again, that's to do with the energy. That's to do with energy healing,
Mhm.
isn't it? So,
Yes.
the more our vibration shifts, and the more the earth changes her frequency, the more it affects us, and all this stuff will come up naturally.
Mhm.
And a lot of people would be like, "Oh, where's this coming from?" A lot of self-discovery. All
Mhm.
of a sudden it'd be like, oh, oh right, I really need to do something with my life. What have I been doing all these years? All this stuff will just start like churning up.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I think it's going to be really positive. It might
Mhm.
it might have that shake up and wake up sort of effect with people as well, because it'll just have that knock on effect. But it's all going to do what
Mhm.
it needs to do at the end of the day.
Right. 100% agree.
Mm.
So, my last question is, could you share anything that you would like to share about, your offerings, maybe things you have going on that you want to tell people about, and how people can reach out and contact you?
So people can reach out to me and get in touch via my website, which is reikizen.co.uk. They can also find me on my YouTube channel, Ian Robinson Reiki Zen. I've got Instagram and Facebook, which is all Reiki Zen, basically. That's the handles for it. Um, but yeah, but anything that I've got going on at the minute, currently, my latest offering, which I had going over Christmas to New Year, which was well received actually. It was a triple, it was like a bundle of three. So it was an hour's Reiki, it
Mhm.
was a 30-minute meditation, and it was a hypnosis session, basically to end 2023 on a
Mm,
wonderful high vibe with lots of healing. I did it on like a discounted price. And so I did it for £99.
mm,
So normally it's like £150.
mhm,
Um, so that is kind of like my latest bundle that I've put together, and the people that have had that and used that, so the hours Reiki, the meditation, the hypnosis, they felt wonderful sense of like release and relief, and just felt so much lighter, so much better, and have gone into 2024 without all that, because you can clear a lot of the garbage from 2023 and previous years, and you can go into a new year with a nice feeling. But it doesn't have to be like just the end of a year. You can do this at any time, and then
sure.
on the website you'll find lots of other packages and plans that I have available. Some are for like a month, some are like blocks of Reiki sessions. There's like individual Reiki sessions, individual meditation sessions. I also do a home and land cleanse as well now with Reiki. So yeah, so
Very cool.
I asked for people just to send pictures of like the home, some of the rooms that they want some work set, some healing sending to, and yeah, some really, really powerful stuff gets shifted through them as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Very
Mm,
cool. Yeah, it makes a good point. Our homes, our
mm,
land, like they contain
yeah,
energies as well, and they hang on
yeah,
to things as well. So that's really awesome.
yeah. So it's a real full, fun, full bundle that I try to offer, really.
Yeah.
Just for like everything, for all day, for every day, for
Mm,
for life in general, just to be
right.
have that supportive healing there. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. I mean, how good would it feel to have all of that, for yourself and then come home and just like being able to kind of bask in it,
Mhm.
because your home has been cleaned as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
important. Maybe
Mm.
we'll do another conversation about that in the
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
future.
yeah. Maybe in another year's time.
Yeah, I know, right? Maybe not that long. We'll try to do it. We'll try to stay on schedule this time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay. And do you have anything else coming up? Like any
Um,
podcast or videos or anything that
oh,
you
I've
want to
I've
share
always got
about?
stuff. I've always got stuff going on. I'm very, very busy with YouTube. I've done a lot
Mm,
of chats lately with different people. The other day I was chatting with a
yeah.
pagan. Before that I was talking to a shaman in South
Wow.
Africa. Yeah, I do weekly get chats with a guy he was from the UK and he's now living in Sardinia. And he's a psychotherapist and a linguist. He's called Patrick, and we've started a channel together called Apocalypse Alchemy. So,
Oh, cool.
so it's trying to
Heck yeah.
heal in the end times.
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, that's so cool. Yeah, I
mm.
mean, I love your YouTube channel. Please tell everybody what your YouTube channel name is.
So it's Ian Robinson, Reiki
Mhm.
Zen. That's the
Ian
handle.
Robinson Reiki Zen, and that I will be putting all this information in the description. So if anybody wants to reach out to Ian, please, please do, and definitely check out his YouTube channel. And Ian, I have so loved catching up with you.
Oh,
This
me
was an
too.
amazing chat. I feel like it went super, super smooth, even though I had
Did.
a little technical difficulty at the beginning. Thank you for understanding on that.
No, it's
But we're
been
trying to get
wonderful.
back. Yeah, we're just trying to get back in the groove, man. You
Yeah,
get it.
absolutely.
Wonder
Absolutely.
Wonderful. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. We will be having more guests on our series. I would love for Ian to return. I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of their week. Take care.